Welcome back to the deep dive. We take the source material you shared with us, the articles, the briefing notes, all that raw data, and we cut right through the noise to get you the insights you need. And today, we're doing a really fascinating geographical experiment. We've got sources on 3 very, very different U.S. states, Colorado, Delaware, and Connecticut. And our mission, really, is to see how fast we can pull out the most compelling contrasts, the little facts that just define these places. We're going from, the high altitude west to the super packed East Coast.
Exactly. And what's great about these sources is how specific they are. We're getting these clean data points on location, on population density, even on how their governments are structured.
Right.
It lets us build this incredible map of, just how different American development can be based on pure geography.
So it's not just a list of facts.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, get ready to compare the Rocky Mountain West, a state that's literally defined by its altitude, with states where, a single square kilometer is just saturated with people.
Right. And one of them has Yankee Doodle as its state song.
And that contrast right there, that tells you almost everything you need to know. It's a powerful story.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with the big one. Colorado. COE. The sources make it really clear. When you talk about Colorado, you are talking about the western United States. And its geography is just unmistakable. You've got the highest peaks of the Rockies dominating the entire western half.
And what's so striking right away is the scale. It's just massive. Even though, the eastern part of the state isn't mountains at all, it's high plains.
Right.
But that geological split, it creates such a fascinating dynamic for the people who live there.
And that geology is actually baked right into its name, which I think is so cool. Colorado comes from Spanish. It means reddish. Is that from the sandstone or is it the river?
The sources say it could be either one. It could be the red stone you see across the region, or it could be the reddish-brown color of the Colorado River itself.
That's a literal description.
It is. It's pulled right from the land. But that focus on the land creates this kind of puzzle when you start looking at the people.
The puzzle being Denver.
Exactly. The capital, the biggest city. You have this gigantic state, but the population isn't, spread out evenly. It's all concentrated in one spot.
A classic Western pattern, right?
The classic pattern of clustering, yeah. Our sources use demographic figures from the early 2000s, which are, they're perfect for our comparison baseline. They show the Denver metro area with 2.5 million people.
Out of a state total of what?
A total of 4.3 million at the time.
Wow. Okay, and we should be really clear here for you listening that data is from the 2000s, but the pattern is what's important. I mean, Denver has exploded since then, but that core insight holds up.
It absolutely does.
Well over half of Colorado's residents live in one single urban area. The rest of that huge mountainous state is, it's largely empty.
And that's the friction point. That urban density set against this vast geological backdrop, it defines everything for them, from water management to building roads.
It also gives us a great snapshot of the culture, doesn't it? You have sports teams called the Colorado Rockies.
Right, the geology.
And the Denver Broncos, the High Plains spirit. Does the sources connect those two identities?
Not explicitly, no, but the contrast is just baked in. It speaks to that duality of the state. You have the wild natural mountains, and then you have the organized, settled cities on the plains. Oh, and for an administrative note, the postal abbreviation is CO, and yes, the USS Colorado was named for the state.
Okay, before we jump east, let's use the governance structure here for Colorado, because the source is so detailed. It really sets a template for any U.S. state.
Absolutely. It's the standard 3-part system: executive, legislative, and judicial. But the source gives us the specific names. Executive power is with the governor.
And the courts.
The final judicial say goes to the Colorado Supreme Court.
Okay, and the lawmaker.
The legislative branch is the Colorado General Assembly, and it's bicameral, which just means it has 2 chambers.
The Senate and the House of Representatives.
Exactly. The key takeaway is that standard 2-chamber structure.
Yeah.
That's how laws get passed, and it's pretty much the same across the entire country, no matter how many people you're governing.
That is the essential insight, isn't it? The bones of the system are the same, but the challenges of applying those laws have to be just wildly different.
Completely different.
So now we leave the vast high-altitude west, and we pivot hard to the eastern seaboard. And this is where that whole idea of scale just flips on its head.
It really does. Population density becomes the only thing that matters. If Colorado is a study in openness, our next 2 states are all about historical density. The change is, it's profound.
Where are we starting?
Let's start with Connecticut. CT,
Yeah.
located in the Northeast.
Okay.
Connecticut's capital is Hartford, and the source gives an area of 14,356 square kilometers. It's a, pretty modest size.
Modest, yeah, especially coming from Colorado.
Yeah.
But the population figure, that changes the whole story. The source says the 2000 population was just over 3.4 million people.
Which gives us a density figure that is it's staggering.
Okay, what is it?
The number is 702.9 people packed into every single square kilometer.
700. Wow.
700. That is a real aha moment. A number like that means pretty much every inch of the state is developed, it's connected. You have to manage resources in a completely different way.
That concentration tells such a deep story about how old the state is, how it developed. And Connecticut gives us maybe the most delightful cultural fact in all of this.
It really does. While most state anthems are, kind of serious and formal,
Right.
Connecticut's official state song is Yankee Doodle.
I love that. I mean, think about it. A state song that is so deep in American history, everyone knows it, even if you can't remember what that dandy put in his cap.
A feather.
A feather, right. But it signals a kind of historical depth that is it's just so much older than an identity tied to, a geological color out west.
Okay, so let's move just a bit south now to Delaware, DE, also on the East Coast. Capital is Dover, and Delaware is quite a bit smaller than Connecticut.
It's much smaller. The area is only 6,452 square kilometers. That's less than half the size of Connecticut. And the population in 2000 was 783,600.
But even with that tiny footprint, it still has a really high density. It's that fundamental East Coast characteristic again. Delaware's density is 442.6 people per square kilometer.
So let's line them up. We have Connecticut at 702.9 people per square kilometer.
The densest, yeah.
Followed by Delaware at 442.6. That difference is also pretty interesting. Why is Connecticut so much more packed in?
I think that tells us about outside influences. Both are incredibly dense compared to Colorado, obviously. But Connecticut's higher number is probably fueled by its location. It's a key part of that Northeast corridor, heavily influenced by places like New York City.
Right.
Delaware, even though it's the first state, has a different kind of economic identity. It's famous for corporate registration, so its development might be focused more on specialized economic zones instead of just continuous housing sprawl.
So that's the real connection here. Your location dictates how you develop. The eastern states are defined by high population, while the west is defined by geology and distance that basically forces people to centralize.
Exactly.
So let's bring this all together. We've got 3 states defined by totally different things, but they all share that same basic government structure we talked about.
Right. You have Colorado, defined by geology and population clustering. You have Connecticut, where the culture is captured by Yankee Doodle.
Yeah.
And then Delaware, defined by its small scale but still high density.
And it all comes back to that Colorado template, the governor, the Supreme Court, and the 2-chamber legislature.
Mm-hmm.
And the insight for you listening is just so crucial. You can have a state covering thousands of square miles of mountains with half its people in one city, and then a tiny old state with a fraction of the land.
And they both have to organize themselves using the exact same constitutional scaffolding.
The structure is the constant.
The structure is the constant, but how you apply it has to change radically. Just think about the legislative priorities in Hartford managing 700 people per square kilometer versus the legislature in Colorado debating water rights across thousands of empty miles.
It's a world of difference. So we've hit all the key metrics from the sources. Let's do a quick recap just to lock it in. Location: west, east, northeast.
Capitals: Denver, Dover, and Hartford.
And most importantly, that stark contrast in density. Connecticut at over 700, Delaware over 400, versus the massive scale of Colorado where the population has to cluster just to manage the sheer size of the place.
Mm-hmm. The sources give us a perfect snapshot of how state identity gets formed. It's a cocktail of history, location, and data.
It's proof that you don't need a whole history book. Sometimes simple data, when you compare it, paints a really complex and actionable picture of how a country works.
So what does this all mean for you? It means understanding that a state's identity can be unlocked really quickly, and it gives you an instant framework for comparing these 3 very different regions.
So we want to leave you with this final thought.
If a state's name can be tied to its core geography, like the reddish color-defining Colorado,
Then what natural feature, or maybe what weird government detail, or even a cultural artifact like Yankee Doodle, what best defines a state you know well?
Yeah.
How quickly can these simple data points, a song, a color, a single density number, paint a truly distinct and memorable picture of an entire region? We've just seen that sometimes all you need are the right comparative facts to unlock some really deep insight. That's it for this deep dive.